Good evening. Welcome to International Dyslexia Association You Are Not Alone's Instagram Live. We're going to be joined here shortly by a student named Mac. He is a senior. Unbelievable story that this student has. So, really excited to have him on. We've had him on in a previous show, and that was really early on. So, we're going to catch up with him, see how senior year is going, and talk about advocating for oneself in the classroom. So just really excited to share his journey. Again, if you have questions tonight, drop us a line. If you're more comfortable emailing us at our website, you can go to the International Dyslexia Association Oregon Branch website, and we'll be happy to get back to you there. Again, we'll be joined by Mac. He is a senior in high school. We had him on. I think he was like one of our first guests. So just excited to catch up with him and see where he's at in the process too of looking at colleges and the next steps.
What's up, man?
Hey,
How you doing?
pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Good
Hey,
to
thanks for coming on again.
For sure.
So senior year, how's that? You're almost halfway through?
Yeah, we just finished my second quarter, so yeah, about halfway.
Okay. How'd it go?
Pretty good actually. I'm liking online school, works well for me.
Okay.
Kind of
So are you full online right now?
Yeah, I'm full online.
Oh my God. Okay. So that's and it's been a better adjustment or
For me and like the way I learn, it's honestly way better.
um that's awesome. Okay, so you were diagnosed, just to remind the audience, you were diagnosed with dyslexia in fourth grade.
Yeah,
Can you take us through that journey and like what that was like for you?
yeah, for sure. So at the time that I was diagnosed and like started, because at a certain point, like you get to the point where it starts to build up to something more than just this isn't he is a slow learner, he doesn't read well, like he there's a lot of different things that we heard. I wore glasses even though I have 20/20 vision, just people trying to figure out like, hey, why can this kid not read, why does he not like perform very well in like math and a lot of other subjects, why is he struggling in these areas. And so we ended up, I was living in Hood River again at the time, and so there was a little bit less, I guess, like resources for me,
Yeah.
just considering it was more rural. But eventually we were driving to Portland and getting tests done, and eventually I did get diagnosed. But that was by like fourth grade after spending a long time struggling with like undiagnosed dyslexia.
Before you go on, and I want you to go on, but like, can you remember like any like vivid memory from that fourth grade experience?
Oh, for sure, they're all there. I still mess with my parents about it. I remember like nights crying because of the homework, crying because of how much work I basically. I just remember like people thinking that I wasn't trying hard enough, and me knowing that I was putting in 110% of my effort and trying my hardest, but people thinking that I wasn't trying, and just that like was eating me alive. Just because it's like I know that I'm trying, and people think that I'm not.
Uh, yeah, There's a real cool message that one of the IDA branches put out just about how students with dyslexia are not lazy. And I think it's just a constant reminder we need those messages out there is that you're actually working harder than. So go, okay, so I know I interrupted you, but I want you to go on. Like, where does it go from here? You're coming to Portland to get an official diagnosis?
Yeah, so I got my official diagnosis in fourth grade, which was just a huge relief to be able to say I am dyslexic and know that I am dyslexic. And that was a huge relief. And I thought everything was going to be better. I thought getting that diagnosis was going to be just solve the problem from here on out. It's smooth sailing. Wasn't. Um, but it was definitely a huge step in the right direction.
Okay, why wasn't it? I mean, because everyone thinks you get the diagnosis and it's like, okay, so I know what's going on, but what roadblocks are you hitting?
For sure. I mean, still, I'm a senior and I still advocate. And I'm a senior with an IEP and I still have to advocate for myself daily. I send emails daily. But at that point in time, I guess for me, at least the main thing that I'm grateful for is that my mom went out of her way because part of the thing is I don't read books very well. That's kind of part of the whole thing. So she was just reading a bunch of books about dyslexia, just trying to educate herself. And then she would take all of that knowledge and just feed it straight into me. So I'm really fortunate for that because I feel like understanding my disability helps me advocate for myself. And so I was trying to learn about dyslexia at the same time as trying to learn school. But then from there, it was like, I guess the main challenge in Hood River was just getting the things that I need to learn because I feel like oftentimes in the school system, people think that, oh, this is some kid who needs a computer and a phone and all this stuff just to learn. And it's not an advantage for me. It's not me cheating. It's nothing of the sort. I'm playing on an uneven playing field. These tools, these techniques, these strategies, they all allow me to even that playing field.
Totally. I just wanted to comment. I think it's so special about moms because I think they're just a big, big resource in this. And mine was the same way. Had the books on the bookshelf, and I couldn't be more grateful for the effort that she put into it. Uh, but you're right. Like it is. It's this uneven playing field, and it's you can't tell what's going on. So people think, oh, well, you have an iPhone. Like what's that about? Like that's cheating. You're using Grammarly but how did that make you feel? Like, were you able to we talk about assistive technology. Were you comfortable using that in the classroom or did you feel?
For sure. At first it's a little weird. Cause I think the hardest part about it personally was just owning it and being able to like look someone in the eyes and say like, yeah, I'm different. What about it? I have dyslexia. Doesn't make me like any different at the core than you are. I just learn differently. I just have to listen to my books rather than read them. I have to write on a computer rather than with my hand. I have to use something to help me spell rather than just memorize a bunch of words. I have to I extra time sometimes, but like, it doesn't make me any less smart, doesn't make me any less bright, any of that. So it's just being able to learn how to tell people why I do things. Because still in a class of 30-something high schoolers, everyone's writing their in-class essay and I'm in the back of the class typing away on my computer, sometimes talking to my phone like some weirdo, but it's like, I own it. Yeah. They're everywhere.
Okay, so you own the space. Did you always own the space? I mean, or was that like learned over time? And then the second follow-up question to that is, what advice would you have for students that are kind of trying to figure it out right now?
For sure. I guess, again, back to my mom. I love my mom. She kind of made sure that I knew, I guess, what I was doing. And so I remember we would practice what I would say in certain situations. We would run through it and be like, this is what you say, this is why you need this, things like that. But I think I definitely started owning it. I mean, at first there was, again, that fear, but I guess to answer your question, what I would tell someone else is just you really got to you got to own it. It's who you are. It's not going to change. You're not alone. And you've just got to own it. and say, yeah, I'm dyslexic. There's a lot of awesome dyslexics. I'm going to be one of them. What I do, how I learn, that's that. Because that's the core of it, is that it is not different. It's different, but it's not like, I guess, something that's wrong in any way. It's just, I need to do these things.
No, right. Like, and I think to that point, right, you're being put in an environment that's not playing to your strengths.
Exactly.
So you need to find ways to be able to you're just finding ways to compete in a game that you weren't really born to play.
That's what I always tell people, because I don't go to private school. I go to public school, like Lake Ridge High. And I tell people the way that school is oriented is playing against my strengths. Because that's the thing, is dyslexics, we have our own strengths. The school doesn't utilize my strengths. They play against them almost. Whereas I need to write timed in-class essays. That's not how I write. The way I write is by using my tools, my peers, like I'll write with somebody, but by forcing me into a situation where I have to write an essay in 90 minutes in a class full of other students, it's not going to work for me. But if I can remove myself and use my tools in my situations, I'll get an A on that essay. But if you force me to write it by hand in the class and play against my strengths and put me on an uphill battle, it's no longer demonstrating my intelligence. It's demonstrating my ability to work in like a foreign environment, foreign tools, which is just, it's not fair. So by fair.
I always look at it like I worked in collegiate sports for 12 years, and I look at, and specifically football, and you look at offensive coordinators, their job is to put people in positions to succeed. I always looked at it, the classroom became that environment. Like, if I looked at it like I have a bunch of players, and I'm just looking to find how to maximize what they can do at their highest level, that could be the turning point of education.
You're not going to put a defensive lineman as a quarterback.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. It's not playing to his strengths.
Totally.
So if you let them utilize, and so that's all my tools do. Like me bringing my computer and my phone and having my phone out in class, that's the one that gets a lot of people. Is they're like, even my friends joke about it. They're like, dude, Mac doesn't even hide his phone in class. He doesn't put it under his desk. He just whips it out in the middle of class, phone, texting, like he just uses it. And it's like, yeah, on my IEP I can.
Yeah. You're stepping into the space. I love it. So there's something really cool about your story though. Like and maybe it's because your mom helped at the core level, but you became a self-advocate right away. And you've owned that space and you've done that for yourself. But where did you start becoming an advocate of others? Because what's cool about your story is it's not just about you. You made it, how can I take what I've learned and support other students that are going through it?
For sure.
And when did that start to happen?
Well, I guess I always just thought that like I pushed through those hard years, those elementary, middle school years where I didn't know what I was doing, and I made it. Now I got myself figured out, done. But then I was talking with Bridget Barnett, who's been my friend since 7th grade. We went to a school together. We've been really good friends since 7th grade. And she was talking to me about the panel and how like she helped people. And then I guess like her mom emailed my mom, something along the sort. And I remember it basically describing it as like I was a guinea pig, like a lab guinea pig. I had to take all these tests. I didn't know what was like, why I didn't learn right. Couldn't figure that out. And then I had to like had to fight to get my 504, then figure out that my 504 isn't good enough, fight to get an IEP, get approved for the IEP, and then told that I don't need an IEP, like do all this fighting and all this like uphill battle, like tooth and nail just to get success. And when I was like, I guess I kind of realized it's not fair of me to find my success and not show others how to find their success. So if I can help one person find success and not have to be a guinea pig, perfect.
You're like a 1%er.
Yeah. Because you gotta like, I want to spread the knowledge, because it's not that hard if someone can show you. Because I would give anything to go back in time and have 4th grade Mac be able to be told that I'm not alone, that this is not something wrong with me, that this is not different, that there's a way to, and I'm going to find success. I would give anything to have fourth grade Mac know that, because at that point in time where you just get diagnosed, it's kind of crushing.
It is.
You're like, okay, now I'm different than everyone. Cool. that helps. But
right.
Learn that, like, when I found a community of dyslexics, it really helped me, because at that point in time, everyone always lists off their list of famous dyslexics that you all know from movies, but it's like, okay, cool, they're actors. I don't want to be an actor. But when I found out that there's this huge group of dyslexic, 1 in 5 people is dyslexic, like all these crazy things, that just helped me so much.
It is really cool to be around other people. And there's a member of the student panel who always hits me. He's like, I'm not going to be Richard Branson, but I need the person who's the regular guy that's at the bank or working a really good job that I can connect with. And I think as we build this community, you see that like-mindedness within the group atmosphere, which is really special for you as a student panel, but then also what you're sharing with the community at large. Danielle says, thank you for passing on your knowledge to the next kid. It's just, I think everyone's inspired by what you're doing and your ability to help others. So you need to know that. So I want to tap into something else, because you have another aspect of your life, and I don't want to say another, but like you have this outlet of things you do that are outside the classroom, where you talk about how that builds your self-esteem and your confidence. What are some of those things, and how do you find them?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I do not love school. It's not my passion.
Shocking.
I know, shocking. Real shocker.
Way to drop the cliffhanger in the middle of the interview.
I know. Groundbreaking. So anytime that I don't directly have to be doing school, I'm doing something else. Because I unless I have to be doing homework or school or studying, I'm going to find something else to do. So I'm a competitive trap and skeet shooter, and the team captain of a skeet team. I love to fish. I love the outdoors, all of that stuff. But I saw Danielle ask for how it helps out of school, and the main one that I found is with like trap shooting, where there's a lot of like counting and all this stuff, but and it's a total mental game. But my dyslexia helps in a lot of ways with shooting, which allows me to be a better shooter, and finding that strength through my dyslexia, even though by the time I found that, I was in high school. Finding that just showed me that it's not always this crutch, and it's not always this disability. It can be an ability, because for most, I guess the way that they always shoot, because I spent so much time in school, so much time doing school.
I did too when I was going through it. So I'm empathizing with you on it, because it's hard.
So because I spend so much time doing school, I always see how my dyslexia looks in school, doing homework, how my dyslexia and my ADHD show during school. I never see how they help me outside of school. But when you start doing things and seeing how dyslexia, and for me, not all dyslexics, but for me, I have ADHD, and seeing how that stuff can not always has to be, or doesn't always have to be, this like hindrance and this thing that makes life harder, a thing that makes everything more difficult. It doesn't. Some things it makes easier, something it makes you better at. And that finding those things, and if it's your one thing that you're better at because of your dyslexia, it just helps you see that it's not a bad thing, that you can succeed with it.
Well, it's almost like, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, but if you started with that in mind, right? If the journey was, let me find what I'm good at, build the self-confidence and the self-esteem and exploring that, then when you go to tackle reading and writing and stuff, it becomes easier, because you don't have, your core isn't crushed. It isn't a crushing blow that I'm dyslexic, because I'm a great skeet shooter when I'm outside. I know that I don't worry about the clock. I laser in on what's going on, and I'm focused on what I'm doing, and I'm tactic at that. And then if I struggle in reading, it's not that big of a deal.
Because I mean, I know for me personally, and I know a lot of dyslexics, by the time I got to like, I did Barton. So by the time I got to that, I had already been crushed by learning to read like your neurotypical student. I had already been like completely, my motivation was gone. My like everything that like a new student has that we want to learn, gone, thrown out the window. Because I'd been putting in 110% day in, day out, getting zero back. So by the time I got to Barton, which is designed for my success, I didn't want to learn. My mom, she taught me Barton, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I've seen what happens when I try to learn. I don't want to do it. Even though if I could go back, I probably would have paid attention. I know my mom's watching. You're welcome, Mom. I would have paid attention more during Barton, just to try to find more success. But now I've found more motivation to do school in high school, which is a good thing.
Totally.
Once you find that motivation again, after, I hope nowadays they don't crush dyslexics like they crush me, but if you are, finding that motivation again to keep on learning is a good thing, because now I learn again.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. It can be different, and the setup can be different. The only thing I'm going to challenge you on is the thought that you didn't get anything out of those days, because I see how driven you are.
I got a ton out of Barton.
Yeah. But not even Barton, but just out of those days where it just didn't feel like you were getting ground, because you were building that drive that you have. And now I think there's other ways to get that, and probably more efficient ways to get there. But I just want you to know that work didn't just go for nothing for you.
Yeah, and speaking off that drive, I do think as a dyslexic, you've got to have a little grit. There's got to be a little something there, because there's been times where I've had to argue and push for like, I need this. It's not I want this. It's never I don't want to carry around a computer. I don't want to be the kid in the back of the class on his phone, but I need it. And learning to like have that like drive, and learning to speak for yourself and have your voice and be able to speak. That's why personally with my like self-advocacy, my parents pushed me for that. But my mom, she kind of like gradually tried to like loosen on the reins, I guess, until I got to the point where it was like, I don't need to go home and talk to my mom about what I need. I can just send a couple emails to like my my like people who work with me for my IEP, send some emails to a teacher, send some emails to the principal, do what I got to do, send my emails, talk to some people, get what I need done. But that doesn't happen overnight, but you got to have that like learning and that voice for yourself to figure that out.
Absolutely. And that's awesome that you got there with it, and you kind of took those steps. And unfortunately, it sounds like the students are still being crushed from one teacher or one educator that's on the line. And so I think your voice is still needed. I think we got to keep at it. What I wanted to get, what's next for you? So have you thought about life after high school, or are you at that process? And again, no pressure to talk about it, but if it's something you can talk about, that'd be cool to hear what you're thinking.
Well, I guess the main thing for me was trying to find something that I want to do for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Something that I don't have to sit behind a desk and write all day, basically, was my requirement. So I'm going to go to Central Oregon Community College in Bend, and I'm going to study structural fire science, and I want to be a firefighter EMT. Just because it's working with people, which I like people, hands-on. Just it works for me. So that's the plan now.
Well, it's so needed. I mean, especially like with what we went through last summer, and that type of work is just so important and awesome. That's really cool. I hope that what we can do is, as you're kind of going through this, as you're going through that journey, that come back and share it with the audience, share it with the students that are kind of like, well, how do I figure out what to do? Because I think that's a really cool thing that you've already identified very young, by the way, like to kind of know what you don't want to be doing and explore what you do want to do.
For sure. Because it's another one of those where I'm presented with that option of, I don't really know what to do here. I don't know how because I know I can't carry my IEP into college. There's a lot of questions there. So when I get answers, I'll be happy to share my answers.
That is awesome. Well, we just know that anything that we can do to support you through your journey through the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch, like, we're here for you. That doesn't go away.
Thank you.
So the rule is you get the last word. What message do you have for students or educators or parents on the line? Like, what's what's your big takeaways?
You're never alone. Because that's the thing is people think we're alone. No matter where you are, there's a bunch of dyslexics around you. We all have each other's backs. If there's a question, someone's got the answer. We all are here for each other. And we're a community. None of us are alone. And you're not alone. It's what the IDA, it's our whole motto is you're not alone. Because you aren't.
It's awesome. That's a great message. That's a great way to end it. And Jane Cooper, our past president, reminds us that it does take a village, and you're speaking to that.
For sure.
And not only are you one that received advice and resources, but you're giving back already, and that's just so impressive. So thank you so much for taking the time on a Monday night. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, and we wish you all the best and can't wait to hear as you kind of move through in your journey.
Thank you.
Take care.
You do it. You as well.